We would love to have a space where we could invite students to come and meet people. More than 90% of students who have disabilities here at PSU have invisible disabilities. So oftentimes they don't even know how to find their peers, people who are going through the same challenges that they're going through. I just think that that would be so powerful for students to be able to come here and meet their people. And also just possibly learn different ways of thinking about disability.
Diversity and Multicultural Student Services, we have 7 departments. And some of those departments are centers and some of them are services. The spaces that have centers, we know are really, really busy spaces. They offer programs, but also places to gather. And so I think that it's really important for students with disabilities to also have a similar space.
The whole time that I've been here, we've had students coming in and asking, how do I meet other students with disabilities? How can I connect with people who are going through the same things that I'm going through?
I can't just look at somebody and be like, you have anxiety too. You have the same issues that I have. I know that what could help is just the validation that, other people are going through that.
I don't really know people with disabilities at PSU. It's been hard to find them. Very hard.
I have found some disability community here, but to be honest, it's mostly been through some of the other resource centers. Often it comes out through conversation and through building community in other areas. I find that I also have that in common.
We did at one time have a lobby area that was fairly large and had quite a few computers, and students could come in, they could talk to each other, they could hang out if they wanted to. When we had to put in more offices in order to serve the students, the increasing number of students that we have here, we lost that space.
So right now we're just a service center, making sure that we're in compliance with the law, and that's great and that's necessary. And also there's just so much more we could be doing if we had the appropriate space and resources.
A space for students with disabilities would provide opportunities for them to learn different perspectives on disability and unlearn negative ways of thinking.
A lot of students have been taught to think negatively about their disability.
I feel it gives me some bad memories and things because I went through so much that sometimes I just feel like crying when I see other people with disability. It just hurts to see other people with disability and things. Not that I don't want to be around them, but because of how I feel, kind of drew me back away. Give me some memory of what I went through and how it feels to be in a wheelchair. Why other people are like me.
DRC staff frequently hear similar comments from students with disabilities. Dedicated community space will help counteract negative views about disability.
Certainly for folks experiencing invisible disabilities, you don't know, and it's hard to build community if people aren't, self-identifying. They don't have that space. They don't have that community. They build it independently, one-on-one, but not, not in the kind of community building we see in a lot of the other resource centers.
Not to speak for myself, for all the people that they need the service space. If that would be good, if you can, this office can have a bigger space, we'll be able to serve the community.
There would be many more opportunities for actually getting to know the disability community, which I have not had in the past.
Knowing that there's a space for you on campus is so powerful.
Discovering the social model was a massive liberation. I was being treated differently, and no, it wasn't me being deficient. It was everybody else's social anxieties projected onto me. Kiruna Stemmel.
I think I always had an idea of, actions that were technically ableist, but I never had a word for it. Side remarks that are discriminatory against people with disabilities, or treatment that is discriminatory. I think a lot of times I didn't notice microaggressions as much
I knew they were there, I knew they impacted me, but also, again, didn't have a term for it.
It helps me to kind of reframe my thinking about what I experienced, to kind of have these conversations with other people who are at different places in their understanding of disability pride and different disability justice. So,
without pride, individual and collective resistance to oppression becomes nearly impossible. But disability pride is no easy thing to come by. Eli Clare, Exile and Pride.
Disabled people deserve better than that. And they deserve recognition, they deserve the right to be themselves, and the right to be awesome.
Yada's perspective on disability changes as Jen shares a new view of disability from writer Lauren Berglund.
My disability defines me, and that's okay. I don't just happen to be a student with a disability. I am a disabled student, plain and simple. Being disabled greatly impacts my ability to be a college student. It means I have to advocate for myself daily. It means I have to plan ahead and be prepared for any situation. It means I have to work twice as hard as my peers to read the same article. It means preparing weeks in advance for the start of a semester, and it means that sometimes I just can't make it to class that day. When you tell me not to let my disability define me, you're telling me not to embrace a huge part of my existence. You're asking me to ignore the part of me that has greatly shaped who I am today. You're indirectly telling me that part of my identity isn't important. When you treat my disabilities as something separate from me and say they don't define me, you are denying the overwhelming significance disability has had in my life. Identifying as a disabled person empowers me every day. When I say I am disabled, it isn't for pity, and I am not giving up or showing weakness. When I say I am disabled, I am showing my strength, worthiness, and power. I am owning who I am.
Wow. Wow. I almost disagree with her, but after she said why you should say the reason, I'm like, okay, I changed my mind. But she's definitely right. Personally, I used to think that, my disability doesn't define who I am. Like, I know that I have disability. People around me know that I have disability. But it doesn't mean that I'm not like just every other people who are not in a wheelchair. Doesn't mean that someone who is not in a wheelchair is smarter than me. I agree with almost everything. Like, that's really, really good. Now I changed my mind.
It's been so long that I've watched this need be there and not really be fully met. And it would just be awesome to have some place where students with disabilities can go, connect with each other, chat, get to know each other, share their ideas and their experience, and just really get a better experience out of Portland State University because of it.
Like there is initiatives in place to sort of like be more inclusive and bring people to the school that are experience different kinds of disability. And if that is going to be happening, then I feel like also the community piece needs to be happening. Yeah, it's really incredible to share stories. And I think the disability rights movement has come from that.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion advocacy requires the ongoing examination of all endeavors, activities, practices, structures, and systems of Portland State University. We seek to identify the barriers and challenges to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We advocate for any and all needed changes that aid in making every person feel welcomed, wanted, valued, and partnered with for their success. Office of Global Diversity and Inclusion, Portland State University.